Hello. Happy Valentine's Day. I want to start this video off by saying this is not a video for my viewers out there that are trying to lose weight, trying to maintain their weight, or anything weight related. This video today is for my family, especially my two children, my daughter-in-law, and my two grandchildren. Today, I celebrate a special anniversary for me and for somebody else that I'm very close to. You see, 50 years ago today, on February the 14th, 1970, my husband and I went steady for the very first time. We had only met in January of 1970 and probably had 2 or 3 dates before we went to a Valentine's dance. It was sponsored by a club that he was a member of. Well, after the dance was over, he brought me home and we sat in his car right outside of my family's house, and we spent many nights there after that night, but this was one of the first nights that we spent there, and we talked for probably a good 30 minutes. I knew I was about to have to go in, that my mother would come to the door and flash the lights off and on in the garage so that was my signal to get out of the car. Well, before that time came, he looked at me and he asked me if I'd go steady. I was so excited. I never really had gone steady with anybody before. You see, I was only 14 years old and he was 15. I thought for just a second and I said, of course I will. And then he gave me a sweet kiss. You see, that was the first time he'd ever kissed me. So it was a special moment for us, a moment that we had no idea would last for 50 years. At the time, we just knew we wanted to go steady. So now, 50 years later, we still go steady. It hasn't always been easy, but we've always managed to face the trials and tribulations, the good times, the sad times, the special times in our lives together. There is a picture out there of about the very close to the day that we started going steady, but I couldn't find it today, so I'm going to put up another one that it more than likely will be the thumbnail for this video, but I wanted to show it here. This was not July the 14th, 1970. It was the 1st of May, 1970, when we went to a band dance. I was a member of the high school band, and so we always had a banquet or a dance, and this was still a pretty good representation of what we looked like when we first started going steady. You know, this week I've known that it was coming, or this day, I knew that it was coming ever since the first of the year. I always try to mark February the 14th as a special anniversary for us because it was special to me. Always has been. You know, the year that we got married, we tried to figure out a way we could get married on February the 14th, but it just didn't work out. So this has to be our first going steady anniversary instead of our wedding anniversary. So as this date approached, I was excited to see it come. Well, as most of you out there know, this year I picked the word grateful to be my word for the year. And another thing happened this week that brought that to mind. You see, I lost a dear friend of mine Monday. Went to her funeral yesterday, and it was a sweet funeral. She was the epitome of grace and beauty to me. She was always just a beauty. And I don't know how else to explain it. She took very good care of herself, and it was never in a haughty or snobbish way. It was an important part of her life to keep herself nice, clean, and she was really a beauty. Her and her husband, I believe that they had been together for 69 years. So she was a perfect example of what I wanted to be. Back in the 80s and 90s, I used to play a lot of golf, and there was about 8 of us that played together, and more times than not, this lady and I played golf twice a week. Went on several trips, and I will always cherish the friendship that I had with her and the many wonderful memories that I have of her. I have one picture that I kept on my refrigerator for at least 25 years. It actually has my 2 children in it. These are my 2 children right here in a little fashion show. This is me in the background, but this is her sitting at the table. And, it's not a great picture of her. Hopefully, her family won't be offended that I've used it, because I don't feel like it gives her identity away or anything like that. But each day when I would open my refrigerator door, I would see that picture of my children, and she was always right there by it. She is sitting right in front of me, and so I always knew she was in the picture, and I'm so grateful for the times that we had together. And I am so thankful that God blessed me with my husband, and that we met each other in January of 1970. And he asked me for the first time to go steady with him on February the 14th, 1970. Thank you for watching. To all my family out there, I love you with all my heart, just like I love your dad. Goodbye.